Hey guys, I'm Nate. Welcome back to the workshop. Today we're going to try our hand at something called hydrodipping. Hydrodipping is a process by which a tint is sprayed onto the surface of a fluid, usually water, and then the object that you're trying to paint is passed through it. All of the paint or ink gets applied evenly to the surface of whatever it is you're painting, even if it has an uneven texture or little bits of ins and outs to it. We're going to see if we can replicate the effects of hydrodipping by using spray paint and a large bucket, which we'll fill up with water. To start off, I've got this little squirt gun and we're gonna see if we can change the colors of it to something entirely different. If there are any parts that we don't want to change the color of, we do want to mask those off using some tape. On this gun, I think I'll mask off the trigger and just the opening where the water squirts out. Our gun is now taped off in the spots we want it to be, but before we start dipping it into spray paint in the water, I'm gonna hit it with a layer of primer to really help make sure that all of our colored spray paint is gonna stick to it well. All right, the layer of primer on our little plastic squirt gun has now dried, so I think we're ready to try dipping it into the water after we add some paint. So I think the first thing we have to do is choose a good color scheme. For this gun, we're gonna try using red and yellow. And the general idea of how to do this is to spray one color in and then spray the other color down inside the sort of circle that will have formed in the water. If you want the effect to have a lot more layers and lines in it, you can switch back and forth several times. All right, here goes. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. The paint will now coalesce a little bit more into the center. I'm gonna just try and dip it right into this area with all of the stripes. Let's see how this goes. Just keeping the gun pushed slowly down through the paint. And now that it's all the way under the water, I'm gonna swirl away all of the extra paint on the surface so that as I pull it out, it's not going to pick up more paint, as that would ruin our finish. And there we go. Now this is a squirt gun, so it filled up with water. It's got a lot of hollow spaces in it. Likes to leak out the handle, looks like, but that is pretty cool. Look at that. It's like a marbled red and yellow. It does have some spots that look pink. Because I'm using such a large container, the paint does like to sort of spread out to the edges, and with the amount that I used, it wasn't very densely packed together. So the parts that look pink are where it was red, but sort of a spread out, weaker red. Overall, I think that turned out really nicely. Very cool marbling. I wear gloves pretty much all of the time on this show, but this is one where I definitely recommend that anyone trying it wears gloves, because this stuff will get all over your hands as you're dipping stuff down into the paint. Normally, spray paint will dry in as little as 15 minutes, but this stuff, having been in the water, can even have little bits of water trapped underneath the paint. And so to really let this dry off all the way, what we really want to do is give it up to 24 hours in a room temperature area to completely dry off. And then we want to hit it with a clear coat to make sure that the paint isn't going to chip and wear off too quickly. After dipping our squirt gun, there's still quite a bit of paint left on the surface of our water, but we don't have to pour it out and fill a new bucket full. We can clean the paint off the surface of the water pretty easily just using some paper towels. You can see that at this point the paint is sort of a plasticky film, and it doesn't stick to things as well in this state, which is why we want to spray and then have everything prepped so we can just dip it in immediately, because it won't grip as well if the paint isn't as new. I've got another little squirt gun that I've primered up. Let's choose a couple other colors and try painting this one. This time we're gonna try purple and pink, see how that gun turns out. This is interesting. Our pink is responding a little bit differently than other paints have, but we'll see how this goes on. That pink color went on really oddly. It sort of formed into that plastic sheet that I was explaining about immediately as soon as it hit the water. The purple did a really good job, so I like how that turned out. But the pink, you can see, like this is just thin sheets of plastic, and it didn't like to spread at all, so it didn't stretch going over the contours of the gun. It's not a terribly ruined effect, but it doesn't work as nicely as some colors, so you may have to experiment with which colors are going to work the best. We've had one successful test with a squirt gun and one less than successful test with a squirt gun. Now we're going to move on to trying something else. This is a phone case that I've taped off and painted with our white primer. We're going to see if we can give this a nice swirled marble texture. I'm going to see if I can get 3 different colors to work all at once in this one, alternating which one I spray. Bit of an experiment. Ooh, there we go. I'm liking the look of that quite a bit. Got some little stringy bits, but I think those are all attached to the tape, not the case itself. I think we've got some good swirl patterns going there. That is a neat phone case pattern, I think. That phone case works so well, we're gonna try one more. I have another case here which has a little bit of a texture to it, and I'm not sure how that's gonna change how well the paint bonds to it. But I have taped this off and hit it with our primer, so let's try a different pattern. I'm gonna go for red and black on this one. Ooh. A little bit of mixed results there. This red really seems to like to spread out. Overall, I like the look, I like the switching between colors, and it's still kept most of the texture beneath our paint, which is pretty cool. However, you can see that we're getting sort of a pinker look over here, and I was hoping for a little bit more red, but overall, I think this is still a pretty sweet design. I did want it to be all red, but if it couldn't be all red, I at least like that the thinner spot is almost centered around the camera hole, so it looks like it's all radiating out from that point. One more thing that we're gonna try, Grant wanted me to see if I could successfully use this hydro dipping method on the slide of his Glock. So we're gonna try and give this a sort of snow camo look using black, gray, and white, and we'll see how it's turned out. I've tried to tape off every bit of the surface that I don't want painted. It's still going to be a bit of an experiment. Hopefully it turns out well. All right, there we go. We had a bit of an ordeal getting our paints to really work. The gray was doing the same thing as the pink in that it kept just turning into sort of a plastic film as soon as it hit the water. I think the solution was actually just to keep shaking the whole can up a lot so the paint inside was much more evenly mixed. That seemed to fix it with the gray. I might want to do another test with the pink and see if it's doing the same thing. Overall though, I think we got a pretty cool swirled snow camo effect on this slide. So we'll let this dry and then we'll attach it back to the gun and see how it all looks. There we go, the pieces that we hydro dipped have now had plenty of time to dry out and completely cure. So now what we're gonna do is hit them with a layer of clear coat, and hopefully that will make it so that they're safe to handle and we won't have any paint chipping or coming off. There you have it, an at-home method of hydro dipping using spray paint and water. We don't mean to imply that guns and phone cases are the only things that you can do this with. There are all sorts of materials that would work great for hydro dipping, and some of them would actually get handled less than squirt guns and phone cases, so the spray paint may hold up a little longer on them. If you try this at home, we want to know about it. Let us know down in the comments or tag us on Instagram, #thekingofrandom. Thanks for joining us for this video, and remember to come gear yourself up with hats, shirts, and other cool merch at thekingofrandom.com. See you there. Sometimes if you swirl them around a bit, you can get a little bit more of a marbled texture, which can also look pretty neat. Got 5 guns and 2 phone cases. No other examples.